Good evening. I call to order this July 28th, 2026 meeting of the Blair Mayor and City Council. I am Mindy Rump, the Mayor of Blair, and thank you for coming tonight. This is a public meeting and you are part of the process. I encourage you to share your thoughts and participate, and we will do everything that we can to make sure that your voice is heard. We do have several rules to help us proceed with the meeting, and I ask that you please keep them in mind. Please turn off your cell phones. If you need to take a call, step outside the chamber. When you wish to speak, simply raise your hand and I will call you forward to the podium. Brenda Wheeler, our city clerk, must record who you are, so please state your name, spell your last name, and state your address. Keep your remarks brief, about 3 minutes, so others have the opportunity to speak. A copy of the Open Meetings Act has been posted by both exits. Also, I'd like to remind you that you need to direct your remarks to either myself, to City Council, or to City staff. And we are going to begin this evening with the roll call of members.
Banner?
Present.
Paulson?
Here.
Long?
Here.
Wolf?
Here.
Willis?
Here.
Clark?
Here.
Letcher?
Yep.
Highfield?
Here.
All members are present.
Thank you. If you'd please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item number 4, approval of the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Please register your vote.
All council members present, voting aye.
Motion passes. Item number 5, we will be postponing to a later date, so we will look forward to that next month. So we're going to move on to item number 6, promotion of Jackson McIntosh and Ellie Russell from cadets to the senior cadet program with the Blair Volunteer Fire Department. Good evening, Chief Ayton.
Good evening.
You don't get to hide. We're before you tonight to, promote Jackson McIntosh and Ellie Russell to senior cadets. They've been with the program for, I think, about when it was introduced, and they have done their diligence. They are reaching their goals, and they are ready to move up the ladder. Last council meeting, we were here, and we moved one from the cadet program over to a member of the department, and this is what this program is for, so we're happy to be able to move a couple more in that direction. So, Ellie and Jackson.
Very good.
Outstanding.
Council, do you have any discussion?
I'll make a motion to approve the promotion of Jackson McIntosh and Ellie Russell from cadets to senior cadet program with the Blair Volunteer Fire Department.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the promotions of Jackson and Ellie. Please register your vote.
All council members present, voting aye.
Motion passes. Congratulations. We know volunteerism is not taken lightly, and we appreciate your devotion to our community and hope that you are a beacon for others. Thank you very much. Item number 7. I'll open a public hearing to consider a conditional use permit renewal application submitted by Dennis Fenderson, 5020 Hillcrest Drive in Blair, Nebraska, for the continued use of a 60 by 120 foot building and a lot for storage indoor and outdoor on the easterly 20 feet of lot 17, along with all of lots 18 through 21, all lying in block 52, original town site of the city of Blair, Washington, Nebraska, along with the vacated northerly 10-foot of Grant Street right-of-way adjacent thereto for 20 years, otherwise known as 275 South 11th Street. Mr. Byerman.
Thank you, Mayor Rump. Good evening. Good evening, council members. Jeff Byerman, Community Development Director. 4 items from the Planning and Zoning, from the Planning Commission meeting earlier this week or this month. The first 2, number 7 and 8, I will be presenting. 9 and 10, City Administrator Green will be presenting. He's got the latest information kind of on everything going on in that part of our city, south of the roundabout. First off, we have a CUP renewal, conditional use permit renewal application Dennis Fenderson, located in the mid part of town. This is a renewal, but this is his first one. He has bought the property from Bob Pearson. They did not do a transfer, but when I told Mr. Fenderson about this, he needed to get conditional use permit renewal. There were no problems with that. The zoning district is highway commercial, and storage indoor and out is an exception in highway commercial ACH requiring a CUP. The first conditional use permit requirement, when it came and was granted, asked for trees along Grant Street, but the city utilities prevented that from being installed. In fact, when I was talking with some of the other staff members here, they said that at that time Public Works Shoemaker said he didn't want any trees there at all. Right now, they're also putting a new electrical line in too. So as we get to it, the staff requests the stipulation be removed from this conditional use permit renewal. And we'll show you here in a little bit. Planning Commission did recommend approval with the removal of the trees stipulations. In this part of town, south of Highway 30, east of 13th Street, you'll see a lot here. This is cold storage here. This is the outdoor storage there for RVs and such. You can see the overlay is ACH highway surrounded by RMH below, which is a multifamily high density, and then I think that the old CL on this part down here, limited commercial. A little tighter view of that. You can show everything's within the fence there. This does show utilities. There's a water line running in this right of way. There's a bigger water line running even closer to this right of way, and this is sewer. Right now, I believe that OPPD is doing some work out there. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but again, there was a request to remove the trees stipulation because they were never put in anyway, and that was recommended by Planning Commission. We have a couple looks at the area. We have the fence up all around it. This is the entrance on 11th Street. Kind of the blue shading to kind of hide everything behind there. This is looking east down, or west down Grant Street. So, any questions on this CUP renewal request?
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Any comments from the public? Or do we have any comments in writing? Thank you. I will close the public hearing. Council.
Motion to approve the conditional use permit renewal application submitted by Dennis Fenderson for 20 years with the exception of removing the tree stipulation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the CUP renewal application submitted by Dennis Fenderson. Please register your vote.
All council members present voting aye.
Motion passes. Item number 8, I'll open a public hearing to consider a conditional use permit applications submitted by Kenner Hatfield, 1987 Kelly Drive in Blair, Nebraska, for a home occupation to sell firearms to law enforcement agencies, friends and family on tax lot 81 and 82 in section 23, township 18 north, range 11 east of the 6 p.m. in the city of Blair, Washington County, Nebraska, otherwise known as 1987 Kelly Drive, for 5 years. Mr. Byerman.
Oh, thank you again. So Mr. Hatfield is requesting to sell, like I said, in their weapons from his house. This is a home occupation. We've had several of those within the city before. Home occupation firearm sales does require a conditional use permit. We look at the location here. This is right next to Wood House and across the street along Highway 30, across the street from the KC's and then down the hill from Kelly Drive. Zoning district is RM up on that hill. He's basically surrounded by highway commercial on the outsides with the exception of residential as we go up the hill. RM district home occupations is an accepted use requiring COP. Similar COP request is granted and then renewed again at a home on North 23rd Street in 2015 and 2016. And a similar COP request was denied for a home in the 66 Heights in 2022. I remember right, there was a lot of neighborhood concern with that. A lot of neighbors got out to speak against that. The applicant, and then the one on North 23rd Street was granted and renewed. The owner has since passed away, and that is kind of a null and void CUP at this time, no longer in works. The applicant does have his federal firearm license, which does not expire until the length of his conditional use permit request. He also has the necessary safes and alarms for secure storage of any firearms. We did not include any sort of drawings about the layout of the house and everything else. Planning Commission recommended approval 5-0. Here is his place up here. It's RM, but it's surrounded pretty much by ICH, and this starts the area of up Kelly Drive. Top of the hill here, here's the house. Again, surrounded with KCs. Across the street is the cars. Probably shouldn't shake that so much, I'm sorry. A little more view of the area he's in. And this is what his house driveway looks like up on Kelly Drive. And if you didn't know there was a house up there, you would probably go by it every day. And this is looking east on Kelly Drive from around the Casey's. So with that, those would be the CUP for Mr. Hillman that was granted, and this is one for Mr. Kinnison, which was denied. If there's any questions about those. With that, is there any questions for staff on this?
I've got a question, Jeff.
Yes, sir.
You said in the comments that there's going to be safes and alarms. Did we confirm that?
The applicant is here tonight. He will be able to answer those questions more. When I asked him about it, he says, I think it's also part of their FFL, but I'm going to let him explain that because he is the expert. If need be, we could always go up and take a look, if that's what the council so chooses.
Any other questions for staff? Thank you.
You bet.
Would the applicant like to come forward?
My name is Kenner Hatfield. Last name is Hatfield, and I'm a resident of 1987 Kelly Drive.
Thank you.
I've been an Omaha police officer for about 27 years, just a little background on me. I teach firearms for Omaha currently, and I've had this business for approximately 15 years, in which we manufacture primarily for law enforcement entities. Patrol rifles for patrol rifle users, and then also for agencies.
So can you explain your safes and your alarm system?
Yes, sir. So I have a current business in Omaha, and for that location, we have cameras surrounding the entrance, as well as interior and rear security as well. We'll have a safe room with safes inside. So it'll be a secured entrance to the location, secured entrance to the safe room, and then safes in which the guns are stored. Again, that will be monitored by a secondary security system as well as cameras.
I'm a little concerned. I don't have both. I think there was 2 pages to the CUP application. When you put it on the board, I'm only showing one.
The other one was the earlier denied one in 2022.
Okay, the one on the right?
Was not.
Correct.
These are the examples of the earlier CUP.
Okay. So like I see it saying temporary operating business. Okay. What I'd like to know is, why do you need to do this business? If you already have an existing location, why do you need to use the residence as another location?
I would like to move my business from Omaha to here, would be my goal. I figured why pay taxes in Omaha when I can pay taxes in the city I live in, for one. And also it'd make it much easier for me to operate my business by walking to my business.
I'm a little concerned with the neighborhood that's going to be built right adjacent to you.
If it's within my scope, may I ask why?
Because of the nature of the business and that being a residential area. I just have some concerns about it.
I understand.
You obviously don't do any type of, you don't have a practice range or anything
No,
in
sir.
the house, nothing?
No.
Okay.
We have done this before for a local law enforcement officer and residents, and there wasn't any complaints coming from the neighborhood, and I don't think we received any complaints here. Do we know? Any concerns? So, yeah, in the past, just to let you know.
Okay, thank you.
You betcha.
Any other questions for the applicant? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any comments from the public?
Is he public?
He's public, he's a public servant.
But you're chief of police. I did have a question from a council member, just asked me if I was okay with this. Not that it's my approval, but I'm sure you want to hear my feedback. I've known Kenner for most of his time at OPD and my time at La Vista PD. The gun that I'm carrying right here was from him. Very well, he's got a great reputation, probably the best around the region. He's safe. So aside from personally vouching for him, I don't think it would cause any sort of issues for the city.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief, I
Appreciate
appreciate that.
that. Any other comments from the public?
Logan Baker, Boeker, 505 North 24th Street. I think when it comes to the guns in residential areas, correct me if I'm wrong, law enforcement in the room, but I think any citizen could probably have 300, 400, 500, 1,000 guns sitting in every single one of these houses along every single street. So just because someone is selling them, I don't believe needs to be denied access to them, because every single citizen in Blair can have them, and citizens wouldn't know. So just because you're selling them, I don't think is a reason to deter from the residential area. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public? Brenda, do we have any in writing? Thank you. I will close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to approve the conditional use permit application submitted by Kenner Hatfield for 5 years as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the CUP application. Please register your vote.
All council members present voting aye.
Motion passes. Item number 9, I'll open a public hearing to consider an ordinance adopting an updated future land use map for tax lots 143, 145, and 146 located in Section 23, Township 18 North, Range 11 East of the 6 p.m., Washington County, Nebraska, otherwise known as 12645 U.S. Highway 30 and 9325 State Highway 133 area, changing the future land use from residential commercial to all commercial. Mr. Green.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. Good evening, council members. Phil Green, City Administrator. These next two items are two different ordinances that affect the same property. The first one before you right now is the future land use map, and then the next one will be the actual zoning itself. And these are city initiated, meaning that we are bringing this first to the Planning Commission and then to you for your consideration, because we feel like this is highest and best use. This property has had development occurring next to it. They've been involved a little bit with the Blair Crossing Apartments because of some grading that was done. It's right along the Honeybee Lane access, and so we felt like it would be important to have the actual land use clarified, because throughout all of the earlier conversations, this had been considered to be eventually commercial property, but began to be advertised as residential because that's the way it had been used in the past. Again, inside the city limits, as it says here, a few other notes that Jeff had put together. Planning Commission did approve this 4-1. The one was concerned, and you'll see it even more, because again, this one's the future land use, next one's the actual zoning. The concern that the Planning Commission had, and it's a legitimate concern, is if you have the property owner who isn't in favor of this, are you going to put the property at some kind of a detriment in the short term simply for long-term issues? And that's really one of the issues that you as the council have to wrestle with. What is highest and best use ultimately for properties? But we didn't want someone to be confused, potentially buy this as a residential property if the highest and best use really ultimately was for residential. So these are the three tax lots that are laid out there right now. And again, this area had not been platted. If you remember the apartments for Blair Crossing, that area was platted. These are still the original tax lots, slightly changed when Honeybee Lane and the right-of-way for that was put in. So 3 different tax lots. This is an image of the current future land use map. So you're probably familiar with the fact that along highways, it's pretty common for Blair to have what I just call a strip of highway commercial, somewhat undesignated. That's really just kind of an indicator to those who are looking at the future land use map that when those areas begin to develop and begin to be subdivided, there's going to be some aspect of that that will be commercial. Exactly how large that's going to be is really ultimately going to depend upon who the developer is, what their vision is, what they present to the city, and whether that ultimately seems to be good from the city's perspective. One of the unique things that it created here then with the strip down 133 and the strip down Highway 30 is kind of this unique triangle in the middle that wasn't designated as highway commercial, but was just residential. But again, at the time, you had 2 residential houses, Mr. Gordon Soderberg, who lived up here, and then Troy Soderberg, his son, who lives over here towards the east, and both are being used for residential purposes. But again, now it's on the market, and I think staff's recommendation is that commercial would be best for the whole thing. And so our recommendation for the future land use map is to simply fill in that triangle and make all of the property designated as highway commercial for future use. Now again, just because it's future use doesn't necessarily mean you have to rezone it right now. So there's oftentimes a time gap between when it should be done, but whenever properties, again, are rezoned, they should always be rezoned in conformance with what the future land use map says, because the future land use map is the one that really lays out highest and best use long-term for the community. I will let you know, too, that these properties, which again are 3 tax lots, there is a contract out for them now for purchase. The individuals that are looking to purchase it are the same ones that own the land and worked out the arrangement with the Blair Crossing. So they're still part of that partnership as the landowners on that. Now they're looking to extend ownership into these lots if they eventually will close on it. And it will be kind of a combination of commercial use, potentially some residential use over here on the right-hand side. That's still to be determined. That residential, we could resolve a couple different ways. They could come back eventually with a planned unit development that would allow it to still be commercial but have some residential use to it. They may come back if they go to subdivide some of this area over here to the west, subdivide it and request that some of those now subdivided lots be flipped back to residential if they're going to be used for some kind of a residential purpose. Or, as you know, we have overlay districts that could be placed on top of commercial districts that would allow more residential use. So there's a variety of different ways to still allow residential use going forward if that ultimately is what the developer at that time requests and what that future council decides. But the issue right now for this particular item is just the future land use map and whether to fill in this piece and make it all commercial. Yes, Councilmember.
So, next agenda item, you'll explain the change of heart,
Correct.
right? Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Mr. Green?
Yeah, and so, yeah, again, this was 4-1, so the majority of the planning commission commissioners that were there voted in favor of this.
If it was left in the current zoning, wouldn't it also be possible to grant a future CUP or overlay to allow for commercial development under the existing zoning?
Potentially, you don't normally see, PUDs that are in residential-based districts usually are mixed-use residential kinds of developments. You don't see the commercial aspect to that. Normally, if you're going to have any kind of commercial aspect, you'd have the base zoning district be commercial, and then you'd make adjustments on top of that commercial district.
Precisely. In my opinion, I think I would rather see that remain as it is now and either be addressed as an individual project comes up, see the desirability of it to fit in with that use, or when we redo the land use plan, the future land use plan, to then evaluate whether or not it needs to be changed. Currently, I don't see the value in changing it to just commercial.
Okay. I should mention too, late this afternoon, and I think Brenda went ahead and posted this in Spark, but we did get an email from one of the adjoining property owners that's immediately to the south of this particular property. So not involved with this per se. What was unique about this other property owner is they rightly brought to our attention and reminded us, not that we didn't remember it, but they reminded us that the 2024 Housing Advisory Committee had specifically designated their lot immediately south of this as, I think, ranked number 5 on the list of potential parcels to be developed when it came to residential use, not commercial use. So they were concerned that if this was flipped to commercial, would that have an impact on the residential? I did email them back this afternoon after that email came in, reminded them that the current developer is considering some kind of residential use on that west side that really kind of rolls into where their lot is immediately south. There is some potential, if they're interested in seeing that land developed, that they could work with the individuals that are currently looking for it. It would provide potentially through access all the way from Honeybee Lane down to County Road 26. And so it's always good when you have some connectivity through neighborhoods and just an alternate way out. So that's a possibility. But they were writing to just express their concern that would this highway commercial impede them in some way. Now again, you're always going to be faced with the situations of these buffer areas along highways that primarily are going to be highway commercial and then transition into some kind of a residential use. So somewhere in there, there's going to be a transition. Whether this is the appropriate location or not, that's your decision to make.
If they're considering doing residential on that west side, to what advantage is it to change it to commercial now if they're thinking about doing residential?
Any great questions. Number one, it's still for sale and the sale's pending, so it hasn't been made yet. So we just wanted to make sure that other individuals, because we'd had at least 2 phone calls from people who were looking at buying these for residential uses. And the concern was, well, if they don't continue to stay residential uses, but you have all this growing commercial around you, are they just aware of what's going on? And is it better, frankly, to have it marketed from a commercial standpoint or marketed from a residential? Most realtors will tell you that to market land for commercial purposes, if it's an active market and you've got willing buyers out there, that it'll actually go for more money per square foot than it would for residential use. So again, that highest and best use issue is really what you're kind of considering, especially here with the future land use map.
Thank you.
The next one will be the zoning.
Yeah, and the next will be the actual zoning.
That's the actual zoning I'm talking about, so.
Any other questions for staff? Thank you. Any comments from the public?
Christina Barta, 12861 County Road 26, so an adjacent...
Will you spell your last name, please?
B-A-R-T-A.
Thank you.
All right, so an adjacent property owner field is just south, not the same people who emailed him this afternoon, so that would be our neighbors to the east, I'm guessing. I guess my question is going back to the comprehensive plan that's set to be updated in the next year or two. My opinion is having the insights of those professionals in charge of that process would benefit everybody to know what is actually best suited for future use of that ground. Sounds like there's a lot of unknowns with the potential buyers. Real estate deals can fall through, so we can't really hang a hat on something that, a deal that may or may not happen. But changing the future land use map today would make a lot of impact on how things are looked at. And I think the professionals involved in the comprehensive plan that's going to be happening relatively soon would be beneficial to everybody involved. So we get a better comprehensive discussion of a variety of visions for the area. And again, like the other neighbors had talked about, keeping that middle residential is more harmonious transition to their property, especially with the desirability of keeping that residential. And then as far as the topography and grade of that area, I think that was brought up at the Planning Commission meeting. I know that the grade is really steep right there, so I know when Blair Crossing was starting to be thought of and developed, there was discussions of a retaining wall being not really economically feasible at the bottom of the Soderberg property. So if we're trying to develop, or whoever's trying to develop this ground, is it going to be economically feasible to put some kind of retaining wall or something that if it's all commercial in between the residential property proposed in the future and whatever this commercial proposal is. All right, so that's my ideas on the future land use map. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public? Brenda, do we have any in writing?
Nothing other than that was that.
Okay, thank you. I will close public hearing. Council, how would you like to proceed?
I'll introduce ordinance 2623.
Ordinance adopting an updated future land use map for tax lots 143, 145, and 146, all located in section 23, township 18, north, range 11, east of the 6B in Morrison County, Nebraska, and changing the future land use map designation from residential to commercial, repealing all orange conflict herewith, and providing this motion in full force and effect, and published in pamphlet form.
I move the statutory rule regarding reading on 3 different days be suspended for consideration of said ordinance.
Second. Question.
The question before the council is, shall the statutory rule requiring reading on 3 different days be suspended? Please register your vote.
Councilmember Banner voting nay. Councilmember Clark, Highfield, Ledger, Long, Olson, Wolf, and Willis voting aye. An ordinance adopting an updated future land use map for tax lots 143, 145, and 146, all located in section 23, township 18, north, range 11, east of the 6B in Morrison County, Nebraska, changing the future land use map designation from residential to commercial, repealing all ordinances or parts of orange conflict herewith, and providing when the source shall be full force and effective, published in pamphlet form.
I move final passage of ordinance 2623.
Second. Question.
The question now before the council is, shall ordinance number 2623 be passed and adopted? Please register your vote.
Councilmember Banner voting nay. Councilmembers Clark, Highfield, Ledger, Long, Olson, Wolf, and Willis voting aye.
I declare ordinance number 2623 duly adopted. Item number 10, I will open a public hearing to consider a rezone application submitted by the City of Blair for tax lots 143, 145, and 146 located in Section 23, Township 18 North, Range 11, east of the 6 p.m., Washington County, Nebraska, otherwise known as 12645 U.S. Highway 30 and 9325 State Highway 133, changing the zoning districts from residential medium density to agricultural highway commercial. Mr. Green.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, same property that we're going to be dealing with, now is the actual zoning itself. This one has some teeth to it from the standpoint that this is where it could really begin to impact the property. Future land use maps are great from a planning perspective, kind of shows the intent and the direction of where you're going. Again, land shouldn't be rezoned differently than the future land use map indicates, but it really doesn't impact anything in real life when you change the future land use map. Changing the actual zoning district might, and so that's part of the concern that the Planning Commission had. Again, same properties. Notice a couple things that were mentioned here. Of 2 of the tax lots, so there's 3 tax lots that are involved. 2 of those tax lots actually have a residential dwelling on them right now. One of them is unoccupied, the house where Gordon lived. He passed away this last year. It's not been occupied since then. The other one has continually been occupied. Since they've been used recently as residential properties, somebody could buy them and continue to use those. In fact, they could continue to do that even if they're rezoned. The challenge on a rezoned property for commercial potentially would be with the lender, and whether you could still get a 30-year loan on a residential property that's not zoned appropriately for residential use, even though it's a grandfathered use. The other issue with grandfathered uses then comes into actual insurance on the property, because since it's a grandfathered use, if the dwelling was destroyed more than 51%, that use technically goes away. Now, the building doesn't necessarily go away, so just as you've seen in other parts of town, you could actually have a house that's used as an office, and so the use is appropriate. It's not the look of the structure, it's the use of the structure for a residential purpose here. But that residential use would technically go away because single-family dwellings aren't allowed in commercial. So if you ended up with a fire that destroyed 51%, then all of a sudden that dwelling is no longer usable for that particular use. You could clean it up, remodel it, use it for a business purpose. So the dwelling doesn't necessarily have to go away, or the building structure doesn't have to necessarily go away, but the use needs to go away. Again, this is city initiated, and the property owner, especially Troy, reached out to us in early early on said that they were not in favor of this and that they had been planning to come to the Planning Commission, let them know that. They weren't able to come that night to that, but again, since then, the property does have a contract on it. The potential developers are here, so if they want to say anything, they could do that, but again, our understanding is that there'll be a commercial aspect to some of this, maybe some of that residential on the right-hand side or the west side. I'll talk about that in just a second. But again, to me, from a staff planning perspective, this is trying to be consistent with highest and best use. And generally, highest and best use in areas that could be commercial would be a commercial zoning. Again, the Planning Commission then recommended that only tax lot 145 be rezoned, and that the other two, the two that both have a dwelling on it, stay residential. And again, there's nothing magical about that from the standpoint of could that still be changed sometime in the future? Yes, of course they could. Again, this was advertised for all three lots being changed, so think of it this way. The Planning Commission recommended that what was advertised be narrowed down. You have every legitimate right, though, to go with what was advertised. You can't go beyond what's advertised, but you can go back up to that. So if you would choose tonight collectively to rezone all three tax lots to the commercial, you have every right to do that. Even though the Planning Commission really wanted the one, and they were concerned about the actual use of those properties and whether that would impede it. At the Planning Commission level, there wasn't a contract out for the property. It was up for sale, listed residential. But again, the developers are here if they would like to speak on that issue at all. Here's the three tax lots again that are located. This is 145. Is the one that does not have a structure on it. And that was the only one that the Planning Commission then recommended to be rezoned. Future land use map, as you just went ahead and approved. Here's the actual current zoning for all three of these parcels, which are RM, residential medium density. But again, because of the proximity to the highway, our recommendation is to have all of these go to commercial. Again, if there is the desire by a developer in the future to either leave the Troy Soderberg home, it's kind of in a little bit of a bowl over there, even with the work that's being done now for the highway improvements on Highway 30 for Blair Crossing and the turn into Honeybee Lane. As you're driving down from the top of the hill, coming down Highway 30, you really can't see that house located in there because it's kind of behind the little hill that's right there along the highway. And it is a kind of a beautiful little valley in there, so I could easily see that some kind of a proposal for some type of residential housing be done in there. You could leave the Troy Soderberg home as a single-family dwelling. Maybe it becomes an Airbnb or something like that that could be rented out. You could also have some duplexes then built in there. One of the early concepts we were kind of talking with the developer about was the potential for a little cul-de-sac that would be in there with maybe 2 or 3 other residential lots or duplex lots, all kinds of variety of things that could be done. Some of those may fit better with a different zoning, but again, if they're going to be platted differently sometime in the future, it's very easy then to come back in and say, well, these few lots over here, we'd like to have these rezoned back to residential, even though the rest of the commercial overall, or the rest of the development overall, is more commercial in nature, and this ends up being kind of a little mixed-use area. Again, what the Planning Commission had said was just this one individual lot, but you have the right, since it was advertised for all three, to do all three if you choose to. And that's the next issue. So again, the Troy Soderberg house is here. Again, the fairly large hill along Highway 30, so you really don't see the house. The land kind of slopes gradually up through this little valley area, so whether there would be, like I said, a cul-de-sac in here with some properties in here, this is the parcel that the Christensens had commented on. Again, concerned that if this was done commercial, that it might impact the residential use here, but I could also see some kind of a residential use that would flow into their property if they're interested in some kind of a development continuing on, and that could eventually go all the way down then to County Road 26 and give some connectivity back to the south, which is always a good thing.
And so is it 2 houses on?
Yeah, so there's 2 houses there right now. The older one, which is Gordon's house and has been unoccupied since his passing, it's got some issues to it, so I mean, it's not, a very modern kind of house. And then the nicer house that Troy owns over here, which is for sale as well. Yes?
I get everything you're saying, but doesn't the owner, shouldn't we listen to the owner of those properties as well? So, I mean, and I applaud the planning commission for doing what they did, because it was the understanding that the owners of 43 and 143 and 146 weren't necessarily in favor of going commercial, and it's their land, which is why they went with the other one. So has that viewpoint changed by those owners?
Well, again,
Just
they
city
didn't,
doing it.
they haven't told me that it changed, but they do have a contract now to sell it to somebody who's looking to buy it for a commercial purpose. So
Which one?
all of them, all three tax lots, yeah. And again, they're here, so if they want to speak on this, and you might, hear from them too. The other thing is, and this is always hard for councils to have to do, when you're looking ultimately at what's best for the city long-term and what is highest and best use. And when that conflicts with the current landowner and their enjoyed use of it right now, yeah, that puts you in a tough situation to have to make that call on what you think is really best for them. Can they be rezoned in the future by somebody else who would purchase it? Absolutely. Again, staff was concerned that somebody buy this thinking, hey, it's going to be a wonderful location for residential use, not realizing all the other things that were going on around. And then I don't want to see a situation where maybe a year from now, somebody complaining that if you would have told me somehow, or if we would have known that all this activity was going on, we never would have bought this in the first place for a residential house. It's one of the reasons why the Soderbergs are moving, because too much of the city was beginning to encroach upon them, and they felt like it was time to move out farther.
So this here is going to be for all three if we did have just that.
Yeah, so the two would, if you went with the recommendation from the planning commission, if that's what you're asking, these two lots would remain the same, and the only change then would be to lot 145.
And that would be presented at a later meeting for consideration, or?
No,
We can change it now.
Yeah, now, again, always remember too, when it comes to ordinances, and we don't do this all the time, you oftentimes waive that second and third reading, but you don't have to. So if you felt like maybe you wanted to see if there was more public input that would come to you, you could approve it tonight just on first reading. Now, the question is, which one do you approve on first reading? And Tal, help me, but could they approve on first reading just the one lot, but then at second reading add the other two if they felt like there wasn't enough concern that they heard that they could go back to the full advertisement? Okay. Or you could go the other way too. You could do all three, see if there's, much comment from the public, and then if you did, then narrow it down with a change next time. So.
Yeah, I'd like to hear from the developers possibly.
Yep, sure. So again, you have a variety of options before you tonight, but again, with these ordinances, you don't have to approve it finally by waiving that second and third reading. You can just approve it on the first reading.
Thank you.
Would the developers like to come forward?
I'm John Mabry, M-A-B-R-E-Y, 1019 North 190th Street, Omaha, Nebraska. Right now, we have no idea what we're going to do on this site. We just got it under contract. We're doing our due diligence, soil testing, environmental surveys, just to see what we have, see what the topography is going to do to us. And then we've just started, we turned over a rough drawing to our real estate people just to see what kind of interest we can generate from commercial. The best use would be for the whole thing to be commercial, but I don't know if we can lure enough commercial users to the site to fill 22 acres. So that's why we thought that along Highway 30, the cul-de-sac that Phil talked about up to Troy's house might be a good residential leg of it, and that would kind of take a lot of the land use away from the commercial. So
I understand that, as you said, it's early in the process, but what types of commercial development could you possibly foresee there? Warehouses or small retail or?
Well, my wish list, which could be totally won't happen, is I'd like to see maybe a grocery store or a convenience store. I'd like to build a strip shopping center that could maybe attract some restaurants in it. There could be medical use, there could be senior living. There's a wide variety. It's just a question of what does Blair need in this? Who can we attract new to the area, and who would want to relocate from Blair, the locals, to maybe they need a bigger location. They want to have another site in a different part of the city. So it's kind of a blank slate right now. We're just kind of exploring who we can get for the project.
So what would satisfy your requirements now if we were to vote for 145 being commercial and 143 being res? What would you want 146 to be?
Well, I'd like to see them all be commercial.
You'd rather have all commercial than come back
And
and
then
rezone?
with an overlay for the residential if we go that.
Come back and rezone if
Yes.
you're going to do the res?
Yes. But I'm still doing due diligence. I don't guarantee I'm going to buy the property.
Understand.
So I don't want to step on Troy's toes. I mean, it's his property, and
We're putting the cart before the horse a little bit here. I mean, there's nothing that still stops you from doing your soil testing and due diligence and so on, and then possibly coming back when you have more firm ideas of how you might want to develop that property. I'm a little concerned that if we go ahead and make that all commercial, that then it gives you a little more free hand later on, that we won't have the opportunity to have as much say in that matter at that point.
well, the other kind of way I look at it is, if I have it zoned commercial now, that gives me a better chance of luring some commercial because the zoning is ready for them to come in and start building. So that takes away one of the unknowns from them, but it's anybody's guess what's going to happen.
Any other questions for the applicant?
Yeah, you're not sure that you're going to really buy it, though? I mean, it's under contract?
It's under contract, but I'm doing the due diligence. If there's an environmental issue, that says, okay, it's going to cost $500,000 to clean up some chemical spill, I won't buy it. I'm doing soil borings just to see if I can kind of get the right compactions to build commercial properties on there. So I don't anticipate any problems. I anticipate closing, but there's always the unknowns.
And the owners of both, I've got to wrap my head around this, of both those lots. What are their thoughts on this?
Well, again, obviously, Gordon's no longer here, but his heirs would be speaking for them. And they felt like, I think the Soderberg's approach the whole time has always been, they don't want to do anything that is going to cost them money up front or would jeopardize them just being able to get rid of the properties. I've been trying to encourage them. Others I know, Gateway Development Corporation, others have been trying to encourage them. You're going to have better success, I think, commercial here than you would residential. But they've been pretty steadfast on wanting to stay with the residential. Not because they want to use it for that purpose. They know they want to sell it. But they're just a little concerned that by selling it, it's just going to take longer to get rid of and not as good a value. My concern, again, as I said earlier, is I also don't want somebody kind of unsuspectingly buying it and then thinking, oh, this would be a great location for residential, and then all of a sudden I didn't know all this other stuff was happening. Now, I will add a couple things just so you're aware. Go back to this one just so you can kind of see aerial-wise. Again, Honeybee Lane is in the right-of-way over here. There is one lot, it's kind of their staging area right now, so if you happen to kind of look in there, it's hard to see, but there's going to be one commercial lot that's going to be on the apartment side that's potentially available. And then it's very, very likely that you'll see commercial at least along Honeybee Lane here. Now, again, back to when the grading was being done because of what Blair Crossing was doing, we were able to connect them with the Soderbergs. The Soderbergs were very gracious and worked with them to allow them to have a grading easement so that they could do some of that grading and not have to have any kind of retaining wall constructed. But they chose not to put any money into the project to have additional dirt removed from this location to have buildable pads there. So once Honeybee Lane is going to be open, the land immediately to the south of Honeybee Lane really isn't buildable. They're going to have to bring in, some heavy equipment to take off a lot of dirt from that area. Whether they will be able to find someplace else in the immediate area to be able to dump that, or whether they'll have to haul it off-site, that gets to be very, very expensive. So it's harder and harder to develop this in the way you probably would want to develop it if you don't have the bigger picture in mind. And that's always been just staff's concern. Take the big picture in mind, not the narrow picture, because the narrow is always going to be far more expensive if you do it one lot at a time, one area at a time. And so what the Mabrys are going to be looking at doing is, that's part of their evaluation, what kind of costs are going to be involved in just getting it to be a site that's sellable to some kind of a commercial use. Again, probably some kind of a strip mall type thing, but could be a small office use. There's a variety of different things that can go into highway commercial.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with the 145 as they recommended.
Yep.
But when you're taking someone's property that lives on the property, and then if it's commercial and the damage, as you mentioned, to the home exceeds a percentage, and they can't rebuild, an insurance company is not obligated to cover the rest of that. So if the house is damaged at 60%, the insurance company is not obligated to cover the other 40. They'll cover a certain extra amount, generally 10%, to rebuild to get it up to code. But you're talking a house that is 60% damaged, that's going to be really, really rough on the homeowner or future homeowner to try to absorb that. That's the part that I don't care for. But with 145 not having any properties on it, right off the highway, it makes sense for a commercial zone, in my opinion. But just that.
I like the idea that Phil brought up, that we just don't, pass it on the first reading. We let it go up for 3 council meetings. Do all 3 properties commercial, and Tal, if we could, you said we could change it from commercial to.
Since you've advertised this, it's not something you're doing unique in changing what you're doing between 1, 2, and 3 readings.
So then we can go back or the other way, okay. I think that's just fair, and then Soderbergs have anything they want to say, they can come in and say it, instead of just tabling the whole thing. I think that just makes sense. Because we could, the next council meeting, we could just kill the whole thing if we didn't like what we saw.
Correct.
Or smelled.
I agree. I think it needs to be looked at further. Yeah, for sure.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public?
Hi, Christina Barta again. So not really a comment, but more of a question. So originally, the Soderbergs were opposed to this. I think they wanted all their options open, either a commercial sale or a residential sale. So since it's city initiated, at the Planning Commission meeting, they said it would need a 6-2 vote to pass any kind of zoning changes, like a supermajority. So is that still the case just because there's a offer on the table, or are they still wanting to keep all their both options open, residential and commercial market, availability? So is the vote tonight, is it a supermajority vote, or is it a?
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't mention it to the council, but state statute plus our own zoning regulations stipulate that if the actual property owner is opposed to it, it does require 6 votes, 6 affirmative votes to move forward. So it's kind of like what the CUPs require with the 6 majority.
Thank you.
With the understanding, if we vote to move this pass on first reading, it doesn't mean it passes. It just means we're going to look at it some more and give the public more time to talk about it, and even the owners to come forward, which I would hope they would, to discuss this as well. But understand, it's not being passed, it's just, we're going to look at it again, okay? So.
Passing is not the same as adopted.
Correct, thank you.
Any other comments from the public?
I'm Joy Peterson, Petersen. I live at 810 South Fork Road. I am in the condos on South Fork Road that Mr. Mallet built. My condo is the one that faces, the window faces the north, so I look out my window and I see the Catholic Church parking lot. So if you know that area, that's where I live. When you talk about the development, I have had an issue of a water problem that comes down the creek. I know that all of this development that he's talked about is being built. I did ask Phil a while back what that looked like for that creek, because the water has to come down someplace. It comes down, it gets to a culvert. The culvert is not kept clean. In fact, the ditch is full of logs and debris since the last storm we had. I have noticed that the debris was removed within 3 days from the creek, the South Fork Creek, that goes on 17th and 16th Street. Those areas were cleaned out right away.
Ms. Peterson, I'm sorry to
yes.
interrupt you. I think maybe, are you wanting to talk about agenda item 13 when we talk about the South Fork?
Yes, okay, I didn't know that that's where it was. Oh, thanks for telling me.
No worries, we'll invite you to come back
I've
up.
got over my nervousness, I'll come back.
No, there you go.
I'll be
There you go. Thank you.
So you'll wait for me when it's time or something? You'll let me know.
Yes, I'll wait to you. All right, thank you, thank you. Any other members of the public that want to speak about item number 10?
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
No, that's all right. Okay, having none, we will close public hearing. Council, how would you like to move forward?
I'd like to introduce ordinance number 2624 to cover all three of the tax lots as commercial.
An ordinance rezoning tax lot 143, 145, and 146, all located in section 23, township 18, north, range 11 east, of 6 p.m. Washington County, Nebraska, from RM residential medium density district to ACH agricultural highway commercial district, repealing all ordinance parts of ordinance conflict herewith, providing the same to be full force and effect, and published in pamphlet form.
So now I've got to go down to the bottom, right?
Well, you'll move passage of ordinance 2624 on first reading.
I move, yeah.
Not final, just you'll move to pass
I move the
ordinance
passage of ordinance number 2624.
on first reading.
On first reading, thank you.
Second.
We have a motion, a second, to pass ordinance 2624 on first reading. Please register your vote.
Council members Banner and Paulson voting nay. Councilmember Clark, Highfield, Letcher, Long, Wolf, and Wallace voting aye.
Motion passes. Item number 11.
I thought it required oh, yes, it did, 6.
Required 6, had 6.
Yes. Item number 11, consider resolution 2026-82, renewing the city's property, general liability, and workers' compensation insurance with the League Association of Risk Management, LARM, for 2627. Mr. Green.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the annual insurance renewal. Obviously, each year for our general liability insurance, you have the option of whether you want to go with the same insurance company that we've used for several years, or whether you wanted to go back out for bid or to do some evaluation. That can be a relatively expensive and timely matter, and so what we have before you as our staff recommendation is to continue to stay with LARM, which is the risk pool insurance that's provided through the League of Municipalities. A couple good things. They work very, very diligently to try to keep costs as low as possible, but anybody who's paid attention, both on the residential side and on the business commercial side, knows that insurance costs just keep going up and up and up and up. Inflation has caused everything to be more expensive to build, more expensive to repair, and plus with the seems like increased damage that's occurred through hailstorms and some things like that, and insurance is just very, very expensive. One of the things that LARM does, kind of looking out for its individual clients, is every year, if if you don't have them come out and do a cost evaluation of the value of your properties themselves, they'll automatically increase the value that they assign to that property because we have replacement cost coverage. And so they're assuming a 5% increase in just the value of the structures that we have for repair cost. Then the insurance rates are baked into that. And so they've pretty much kept the rates per dollar the same, but increased all of our value by 5%. So that's going to raise all the property values up some. And then workers' comp rates have gone up at least 5% this year as well. And as we add occasionally another staff person, then that just increases the cost for our insurance. One of the things LARM does do is offer its members, if they're willing to make an agreement for a multi-year, and that's, the dollar amounts aren't set, but you're basically pledging that for X number of more years you'll stay with LARM, then they'll give you a discount on your current insurance coverage. So the base price for our general liability, all the other auto liability, physical damage liability, property damage liability adds up in general to $1,037,822. If we go with the 3-year option, which is what our staff recommendation is to you, then they will reduce that cost by 5%, which drops it down to $985,931 for this next fiscal year. That is a 19% increase from what we paid this last year. Any questions?
So we didn't do the 3-year commitment in the past?
No, we have in the past, but again, it's every year you do that 3-year commitment, and then you have to kind of decide what you could do if you knew, well, let's do 3 years now, but I know in the 4th year, I want to go out for bid and at least have the flexibility to choose somebody else. Then next year, you should only select the 2-year option because you're obligated for those 3 years, so you're still going to have to stay with 2 years and then 1 more year after that. So you kind of set a milestone sometime down the road if you're going to look someplace else. Any questions for me? Thank you.
Any comments from the public? Having none, Finance Committee.
We did discuss this, and unfortunately, that 19% is, kind of, it's alarming, but everything else is going up especially with alarming.
Were you telling a joke? Alarm.
But we all felt that locking in for that 3 years and saving that extra 5% was a wise decision. So if nobody has no questions, I'd like to introduce Resolution 2026-082.
Resolution number 2026-82 was introduced by Councilmember Clark to renew the city's property, general liability, and workers' compensation insurance with the League Association of Risk Management for 2026-2027.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 2025-082 as presented.
It's 2026.
It's all
right. Go ahead and say it again.
Adopt Resolution number 2026-082 as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution number 2026-082. Please register your vote.
All council members present voting aye.
Motion passes. Item number 12, consider Resolution 2026-083, approving an interlocal agreement between the City of Blair and Washington County for the exchange of building inspection services during periods of vacation or sick leave. Mr. Green.
Thank you, Mayor. What you have before you is a resolution approving an interlocal agreement between the City of Blair and Washington County. I kind of consider this to be the building inspector mutual aid agreement. So we basically agree that we'll help each other out at times where there's short-term needs. The agreement itself limits it to just 21 years in any calendar year. If it was going to go beyond 21 days, sorry, I said years. Boy, brain's all over the place. 21 days within a calendar year. Thank you. And if it needed to exceed that for some reason, they'd have to get approval from both different boards. This is simply a way for each department to kind of assist each other. No cost is involved. We're not charging them. They don't charge us. And it's only if you happen to have people available to be able to do that. But it's a good way for us to kind of codify helping each other out. So, any questions? Thank you.
Any comments from the public? Having none?
I've got a comment. we're building the addition on Legion, as most people know, and Ethan Rowe is on 2-week vacation in Alaska. Good for him. We had a building inspector coming in from Council Bluffs, and he was all over the map. I mean, he was in Gretna and, of course, Council Bluffs and everywhere in between. So when you have contractors on site waiting for inspection, it's costing them money, and it's costing us time. When I went to cross the street, across the parking lot, I said, well, can the county do it? We said, well, we don't have an agreement. So I think this is brilliant that we're doing it and that we have some sort of backup. I mean, the gentleman that came up from Council Bluffs was great. It was timing. You know, it was literally timing, cost. So this will help that.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Would you like to put that in a motion?
Finance committee has to talk.
Well, anybody
said it all.
Anybody can make the motion.
Good. I'd like to introduce Resolution 2026-083.
Resolution number 2026-83 was introduced by Councilmember Highfield to approve an interlocal agreement between the City of Blair and Washington County for the exchange of building inspection services during periods of vacation or sick leave.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution number not 2025, but 2026-083 is presented.
Second.
Roll that night.
We have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 2026-83. Please register your vote.
All councilmembers present voting aye.
Motion passes. Item number 13, consider Resolution 2026-84, approving an agreement with Houston Engineering, Inc. for engineering services related to the Blair South Fork Road Drainage Improvements Project. Mr. Heaton.
Thank you, Mayor. Aaron, I think there's a picture of this one. Just so everybody knows where we're talking about. We had a preview on this a little bit ago, so I think, so everybody remembers the big storm we had. I made a typo in the memo to you guys. It was in August of 2025, not 2024. But during that big rain event, so if everybody's familiar, Highway 30, I'll point to this screen, Clark Street runs east and west, South Fork Road, and all of the duplexes that Mallett's built several years ago. Catholic Church is off to the north. During that rain event, so much water, I mean, we had 9 inches of rain in a very short time, or whatever, the amount of rain, it would run down Clark Street. It runs behind these condos. It would run down South Fork Road and just overtop any of the stormwater systems that we had there. It was just so much rain in such a little time, only so much things can do. It was not, from what the engineers are telling us, from what they've seen, any issues that the creek itself had overflowed. But what happened is, when you look at the topography back here, there's a little berm, and it's only a few feet taller than, the backyards, but it's a few inches taller than their back door. So when everything filled up, the low spot was the walkout basements for some of these condos in their basements. So there was water ended up getting into some of the basements, and I believe more so on the north end of the property. You can kind of see in the GIS and the picture, there's a little cut here. Over time, originally this was kind of designed to catch this water and take it through there, and I think actually some of the homeowners did some work on that on their own to try to help alleviate this problem. So all that to say that the issue is not necessarily the creek coming out of the banks, it's the water running down the hill, can't drain into the creek. So we've talked with Houston Engineering. They've done like a lot of our stormwater FEMA type work. They put together a proposal. The total on that is $12,129 to do some design work that then our public works guys could go in and actually do the dirt work to make some adjustments on each end of the property to try to keep some of that water from running behind the houses, but get it to go all the way to the creek. And then second would be at a few spots in that berm to make some cuts in the berm that would allow the backyards to drain, but would still be high enough to keep any of the creek water from coming out if and when, would ever get to that point. The idea would be then that we would keep that water, anything that would fall in the backyards from backing up into the basements, it would flow into the creek and hopefully not be a problem for anybody. Any questions for me on that?
I know we discussed it in our committee meeting, but is there any future plans or ideas or thinking about clearing some of the tree brush, down trees and things?
Yep. So that,
along the creek line?
Yep, so that comes back to the FEMA projects that Jake and I have been working on. That is one of the big FEMA projects. We've identified, what do we got, like 3 dozen spots throughout town where there are trees down. A lot of them are on private property. This creek is private property. This property is all private property. We're trying to keep some of our stormwater diverted away from going into the homes. FEMA has some questions on what exactly they'll cover that's on private property. They pretty much made it clear that they don't mitigate flood issues on private property. So Jake and I have been working through ways with Houston Engineering on how we can go about trying to help all these property owners.
Is Clark Street a curved street or just
No,
runoff?
it is not a curved street.
Is there any thought of doing that to divert it to a storm where it would avoid it from
potentially
keep it from running into backyards?
Potentially, we could definitely look at that. This seemed to be probably the most economical option. We're looking at $12,000 to do some engineering versus several $100,000 to curb and gutter Clark Street. But it's definitely something as this, development, dictates in the future, something to look at.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Joy, you're up.
I don't even have to stand up.
Come on up. You can at least finish your sentence. I interrupted you.
Questions answered. You guys are helping me. You're taking care of this. Oh my goodness, I so appreciate that. The little creek that you talked about, that was something that my husband was a farmer over in Iowa, and he had a really great little machine that when we could see the water problem, he just had me hold the flashlight. And I have to admit, he worked very quickly, and he made a pretty good ditch to the creek so that we could get rid of some of the water, but this was overwhelming, and I feel like when I drive by on Clark Street, I look at the mess in that creek with all of those branches and leaves, branches and junk still in there. It just makes me nervous because I know that's what caused the clog if we got a big rain. And of course, right now it's very dry, so I sleep at night. But thank you for thinking of this issue, because it traumatizes an 85-year-old lady. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Peterson.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the public? Having none, Water and Sewer Committee.
We did meet and talk about this, and like CJ said, the 12,000, whatever the dollar amount was, sounds like a good fix to start to help alleviate any issues with the berm. Just like putting water in a bathtub, there's no way for it to get out. You kind of held it from going into the creek, so I think this sounds like a good deal, and the city guys can do the dirt work. So I would like to introduce Resolution 2026-84.
Resolution number 2026-84 was introduced by Councilmember Paulson to approve an agreement with Houston Engineering for the engineering services related to the Blair South Fork Road Association Drainage Improvements District.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 2026-84 as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt resolution number 2026-84. Please register your vote.
All council members present voting aye.
Motion passes. Item number 14, presentation on safe streets for all. Comprehensive Safety Action Plan. Mr. Eaton.
Thank you, Mayor. Aaron, there should be some slides on this one, please. Thank you. So I think everybody is aware that we are going through the Safe Streets for All comprehensive safety action planning process. As part of that, all the guidelines for this are set out by the federal government. So there's some very specific things that need to be in the plan, some very specific milestones, and very specific support from the governing body, being the city council. SEH is the engineering firm that we selected to work on this project. They've kind of worked with the steering committee. We met, I believe, last Monday, and had our first meeting with the steering committee, discussed, kind of what the plan is, how this process is all going to come together over the next year. And the first step then is I'm going to cover just a brief presentation. Be glad to answer any questions. And then the action item after this then, if the council is so inclined, would be a resolution of support for the project and its goals. So the Comprehensive Safety Action Plan, it's a very community-driven, data-focused, an informed roadmap, I guess, to get to the point where we're preventing or eliminating any serious injuries or any deaths on our roadways, transportation, sidewalks, bike trails, things like that. I'm going to go through these kind of quick, so if you have any questions, feel free to holler at me. Got all these in here. So these are kind of the key points in that safety action plan. There's a commitment from the leadership, helping set goals. There's planning aspects to this. There's safety analysis, looking at crash data, our pedestrian crossings, intersections, everything and all of the above that kind of tie into transportation. There's a lot of engagement and collaboration in this, and I'll discuss some of the upcoming events that are coming this fall that, the public are welcome to come to. But it ultimately ends up getting to changing policy and creating, different strategic goals to help us, get to that zero fatality. This is just kind of covering the highlight objectives that we want to reach in our Safe Streets for All plan, or this comprehensive safety action plan. Again, using lots of data, identifying, high-risk corridors and intersections, balancing, obviously we're all aware of the truck issues down Washington Street, so that'll be a major part of this to kind of weigh the demands on industrial cargo transportation versus the residents and pedestrian traffic. And then ultimately, I guess at the end of this whole project, what the takeaway once we have this in hand will be to apply for implementation funds, and that could be ranging anything from improved pedestrian crossings, bike trails, pedestrian overpasses over the highway. There's a wide array of things that we could potentially do with this after this process is done. So I mentioned data. SEH pulled data from NDOT and also worked with the Blair Police Department to pull all of this crash data together, going back as far as 2015. And it kind of created a heat map, and you can see where the vast majority of our issues are, and I don't think it's any surprise to anybody, which is that downtown corridor down Washington Street. In this last 10 years, there was one fatality recorded, which was at the intersection of 19th and Washington. The majority, and I think there's another screen in here, that kind of breaks down the types of crashes we had. Overall, Blair is, obviously one fatality is too many, but looking at nationwide trends, we're well below the average with only one, so it's less than 1% of all of our accidents in the last almost 10 years now have resulted in a fatality. The vast majority of them are property damage, if somebody hits a parked car or a stop sign, things of that nature. And then this just kind of breaks it out, again, just a little more each year. So then this gets to what is going to be in the resolution that's in the next item. And what we're committing ourselves to, if the council agrees to this, would be 0 fatalities or serious injuries by 2040, and reducing that number by 50% by 2035. We met, with the steering committee, with the professionals at SEH. They all felt that that was a very attainable goal. And the time frame fit, we didn't want to be too narrow or too far out. So we wanted to have something that was attainable, so when we go to get grant funds to build some of these things, we can tie that back to how we're going to meet these goals in, another 8 years or 15 years. Again, as I said, this commitment comes from the council resolution. That'll go into our document. That'll be part of this plan going forward. Again, it just shows the committee or the city's commitment, to reaching these goals. And then that all eventually ties into changing policies, whether that's how we go about laying out trails or what we do for pedestrian crossings. We did some work with the Strong Towns, did some bollards. We've been looking at, other options on other streets as time and funds allow. So again, this is kind of recovering everything I talked about. Again, in the next action item will be the action item to pass a resolution supporting the project. And then as this process carries on, working with public input, the steering committee's input, the council's input, we'll be able to identify where our existing policies are lacking, so that we can make sure going forward we have good policies in place to prevent any more serious injuries. So this is kind of the timeline of what we expect, about the next year to look like. The things I wanted to talk about is August 4th, the police department's having their national night out at Generations Park. Remember what time that is, Chief? 6 to 8. Thank you, sir. So SEH will be out at National Night Out with a pop-up tent. They will have basically a printed version of that map out there with stickers, and people can come out and put a sticker on 19th and Washington, as that's a place where they have issues, or 16th and Washington, or whatever street that is, and provide comments to the planners in person that night. And then the second event is August 25th. There'll be an open house, I believe, from 4 to 7 out at the library. Very similar event. They'll have displays around the room, some small presentations, but all of that is to gather public feedback on this plan, so we can start to identify those hot spots as we put the plan together. Also, I know Jake put this on social media, I think a week or two ago. There's kind of a long website there, but this QR code, if anybody wanted to take a picture of it with their phone, should take you to the link on our city's webpage for the kind of the plan webpage. So there's a survey on there residents can fill out. All that information gets put into the plan, and then there's also a map on there that you can go on that map, just like you could a paper map, and you could put pins on there and leave comments, whether it's a bad intersection, if you think it needs a better crosswalk. You can put a line on it and recommend that we put a bike trail there. So there's a lot people can do on that, and all that feeds back into the plan then. That's all I've got. Any questions? I know I went through that quick. There's a lot.
What time was the 25th again?
I believe at 4 o'clock. I know there's a council meeting that night, so if anybody wanted to go out there and then before and then come here, there should be time for that.
Any other questions for staff?
We have to do this to get funds for projects and stuff?
It'll help tremendously to have this plan when we're competing against other cities for implementation funds.
I mean, it just sounds kind of course we're all wanting no traffic fatality. I mean, it just sounds, I don't know what we do different. I guess it just kind of, it's sounds nice, but it's no different than what we do every day. We don't want fatalities, and we don't want accidents, and people getting run over in crosswalks and stuff. Everybody just needs to slow down, but I just...
Yeah, and if you, Councilor Emmers, we did get a grant, $200,000 grant to do this plan. The grant will cover $160,000 of the plan. We're covering $40,000 to put the plan together that then we can use. It helps document, okay, how are, we all want that. It's great to say that we don't want that, but how do we actually get that done then? And then we can use that to, a pedestrian bridge, I know I've heard floated that idea around a lot of times by people, by Deerfield or different places. They're $4 or $5 million easy. And so we need to be able to have something. And when you're competing against other towns for federal dollars, having a document like this is just another feather in your cap.
Any other questions for staff? Thank you.
Thanks.
Item number 15, consider resolution 2026-085, establishing the City of Blair's commitment to eliminating roadway fatalities and serious injuries. Council, what says you?
I'll introduce resolution 2026-85.
Resolution number 2026-85 was introduced by Councilmember Letcher, establishing the City of Blair's commitment to eliminating roadway fatalities and serious injuries.
Motion to adopt resolution 2026-85 as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt resolution number 2026-85. Please register your vote.
All council members present voting aye.
Motion passes. Item number 16, consider resolution 2026-086, establishing a policy for evaluation of cemetery lot ownership claims and authorizing issuance of deeds. Mr. Green.
Thank you, Mayor. As you're aware, the city's been working through a process of trying to reclaim unused burial spaces. It was a new statute that the legislature passed because it's not an uncommon situation where cities have lots of unused spaces, but there's been no clear deeding of those parcels from the people who originally purchased them to the subsequent generations, and now you've got multiple descendants who potentially could be buried in some of those locations, but the city has no way to know for sure who the owner is, who has the right to decide that, and so therefore we're kind of stuck in this quandary of I don't doubt you that the family owns the plot, but we don't know who's going to be authorized to be there, and unless they have some kind of legal document to show us, we're stuck. So the legislature came up with this process where cities could seek the current owners of any of these parcels, and if you don't find them, there's a process to go to court and have the judge basically determine that they're kind of abandoned lots, give them back to the city, and then the city can turn around and resell them, oftentimes to the families that were wanting to be able to use them in the first place, but it's a legal transfer of ownership. So we're working through that process. Part of what we're finding, though, is there are a small number of those that have some unique characteristics to them that we think, staff-wise, clearly indicate appropriate ownership, but there is no deed. And so this resolution is you authorizing the cemetery superintendent, the city clerk, and the city attorney to work together to develop an actual policy of evaluating some of these ownership claims and see how valid they are. And some of them are things like, the site was originally purchased by a great-grandfather. It passed on down through the generations. There's multiple generations. But my husband is buried there with a tombstone that has my name on it, and his name and date of death. But I can't prove that that's my lot, and you won't let me be buried there right now, even though my name's on that tombstone. Well, that would be one of those things that could show, a logical use for that particular lot, maybe not other lots. So we're simply coming to you now to ask that you would authorize us to be able to put this policy together. Once it's finalized, we'll bring it back. You'll have another chance to kind of give it your final blessing. But at least this gives us some sense of being able to move forward so that we can then work with some of those property owners out there, even though there isn't an actual deed yet, to put that in place. Now, I will add too, it's not part of this resolution, had a conversation with the Finance Committee earlier. They felt pretty comfortable to authorize staff to go ahead and offer at a 50% discount the sale of any of these cemetery lots back to family members if they can show that they really are descendants from the individuals, even though they may not have the right. Keep in mind, once we get these lots back, we could literally sell them to anybody. But obviously, if it's in the area where a family is all collected, we want to be able to honor that as much as we can. We're not in it to try to make money for it, and so they authorized us to move forward with a 50% discount. So we'll be bringing that back to you as well, just to kind of codify that so that all of you have a chance to sign off on that. Any questions on this resolution?
You did say this is a new state law, right?
Yes. So the legislature passed this earlier, this legislation,
Right.
because again, we're not the only cemetery that has these kinds of issues. And again, we're...
Clear that it's not the city that's...
Yes. Well, it's not the city who just kind of came up with it. Now, it gives us the opportunity to do this. You don't have to do this. It's not an obligation for you, but this will greatly enable us to put to good use some of those spots that technically we don't have enough ownership information to make it clear who should be able to be buried there. We don't doubt that you're a descendant, but there's also 15 other descendants, and how can we tell that you're the one that really is supposed to be able to go there? This will help clarify that over time. Now, again, the state law allowed you to do it for any cemetery spot that was currently available and had been purchased within the last 35 years, I think it was. We went back 100 years. So all of these lots are lots that were purchased in 1926 or earlier and haven't been used. And there's 2,600 of them. So that will take us quite a ways in the Blair Cemetery if we can get these back into the hands of family members who are able to use them. But again, we had these few that seem to have very logical reasons why, even without a deed, clearly the intent was for you to be placed there. We want to be able to have some kind of a policy that will allow us to make that decision. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments from the public? Having none, council?
I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution number 2026-86 as presented.
Introduce it first.
Oh, I want to introduce resolution 2026-86.
Resolution number 2026-85 was introduced by Councilmember Paulson, establishing a policy for evaluation of cemetery lot ownership claims and authorizing issuance of deeds.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution 2026-86 as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt resolution 2026-86. Please register your vote.
All council members present voting aye.
Motion passes. Mr. Green?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple quick things to bring to your attention. Number one, regarding the Von Lowe building, I have partial good news to be able to share with you. But for the lots at 1600, the bank is in the final process of getting another contractor involved in moving forward with that project. Unfortunately, I can't tell you for sure that it's actually going to go through. Again, they're doing their due diligence, taking a look at it. There's obviously some money involved and risk involved for them. They do want to be meeting with staff, so we hope to be able to get that done in the next 7 to 10 days to meet with them. But we're on the verge of hopefully being able to move forward with that and get those projects done. Elk Creek, or Elk Ridge, I mean, the engineers, did you get an update at all this week? Okay, we're reaching out to them. Again, the engineers have been released to do the design. We're hoping maybe before the next council meeting, for sure before that second meeting in August, to come back to you with plans for water, sewer, street for that, get your authorization to go out for bid, and hopefully, some work can get started on that subdivision still this year. Aaron was told earlier today that the Nebraska Department of Economic Development is preparing to open the application process once again for the Inland Port Authority. We have our application ready to go, so as the instant we find out that that's open and available, Aaron's going to get that posted. They're planning to open it up on August 10th. And I don't know exactly how long they're going to leave that open. Again, the legislature, previously there had been 5 approved locations. They opened that up now to 8, so there's 3 additional locations, 3 additional spots, and we're sure going to be working hard to hope that we get one of those 3. Again, I anticipate that they'll evaluate them the same way, and that is they'll evaluate them one at a time based on when they get submitted. So again, Aaron's been doing a great job of kind of keeping his eye on that and ready to hit send as soon as they open up the portal. Last thing is regarding the budget. Again, just be looking for some emails this week about some committee meetings that will be coming up over the next 2 weeks or so. Unfortunately, we hadn't had time to pull all that together quite yet, but it's crunch time. We've got to get it done. So you'll be getting some emails this week about a couple of those meetings coming up. Any questions that you have for me? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I propose a motion to adjourn this meeting of the Blair City Council.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. Please register your vote.
What? Did yours not pop up? No. Do you vote yes?
Yes.
All council members voting aye.
Meeting adjourned.